the right to refuse, free will across 4 magic wand experiments. So Daniel O'Keefe sort of starts us off with drawing a line between persuasion and everything else, and that is free will. So the audience must be able to choose between accepting or rejecting a message. Miller, on the other hand, is very skeptical of the idea of free will existing at all. He sort of believes the audience is lost motivated. They're sort of engaged more by fear than by sort of any open-minded reasoning. But even Miller assumes that persuasion is supposed to be leaving a choice for the other person. So Gladwell's magic wand experiment strips those constraints across these 4 experiments and these scientists. So working through all 4 is kind of like climbing a ladder. I noticed that it doesn't really strip away these freedoms equally. They sort of gradually nudge freedom to all of a sudden stripping them entirely with a surgery that no one would ever consent to. So as we sort of climb this ladder, the justification for those skipping consent falls apart, even on the persuaders' own terms. So starting with the bottom rung, Volpe, she wants to make sure that the nation is healthy. She wants to have an experiment where half of the nation has smaller portion sizes. They have to walk. Their parking lot is down the road. The elevators don't work. You have to climb the stairs. Junk food is on the 3rd floor. Have to move your body to get to it. And when you get to it, portion sizes are smaller. You'll be healthier. She actually has some evidence to fall back on. She did this in her own cafeteria, and the freshmen did not gain the freshman 15. But there's no real message shaping behavior here, not changing any attitudes. It's just no attitude is ever really addressed. It's sort of just behavioral engineering. So O'Keefe's refusal to, accept or deny is gone, but harm is reversible. People can always go to the other side and eat junk food and live a sedentary lifestyle if they want. So one rung up, we have Adam Altair, who wants to do this baby sticker experiment where half of the baby population will have screen time, smartphones, the iPhone, and the other half, on Gladwell's suggestion, will have Blackberries. Still technology, but not the sort of screen time and social media and all of the detrimental things that come with overusage in young kids today. At least that's what the scientist is expecting. So there's not really a message here either. There's no really attempted persuasion, but it still takes something real away, right? So the parent and the child don't ever get to really choose how much screen time is being devoured. So, but it's not really a violation of freedom. It's sort of a freedom underneath persuasion. And losing it here does not just last sort of a few years or a semester, it lasts a lifetime, right? He wants to do this for 50 years. Next up, we have Nancy Siegel, who wants to look at identical twins, and she wants to keep them the same, right? Monozygotic, live the same life, carry out normal activities. However, she wants them to look like different races. And then she wants to see how the world treats them. So even Gladwell called this the cruelest experiment and on the show. And he kind of has some background into this. His own mother and aunt were twins, right? And he sort of suggests, like, what would it be like if his aunt sort of woke up one day on the other side of the racial fence at a time when the racial divide was huge, right? What would that do to them? What would that do to the family? He kind of makes a compelling argument for how cruel this actually could be. This just doesn't mess with like food or screen time. This messes with your identity. It's a big deal. And lastly, we have Benson's plan, which is absolutely ridiculous, to surgically remove penises from boys, surgically implant them onto girls, and then she wants to look at how they develop. She is stating and assuming that no matter what, the girls, even with the penises, will still behave as girls. Boys without the penises will still behave as boys. She is trying to convince, right? This is the one with the actual message. This is the one where we're trying to shape behavior through attitude adjustment. She wants to convince the nurture camp that they are wrong. No matter how well you raise or how poorly you raise a child, it has no effect on their gender expression, who they are. It's all nature, it's all biology. Um, so, sort of handing them this explicit research, this is her way of saying there is no other argument. Done. Here it is. And chapter 2's meta-analysis found explicit conclusions actually kind of outweigh implicit ones. Even though the resistance theory or the reactance theory predicts the opposite, that explaining to someone exactly what they should believe does the opposite. It makes them choose the opposite. It sort of backfires, right? So under normal conditions, I think directness would win. However, her sort of methods and message, or once that sort of secret is out of the box, I believe that is only going to be detrimental to her cause, right? I think it would reaffirm to the nurture folk that she was raised poorly, and that no matter what, you would never do that to other human beings, right? So her whole evidence would kind of fall apart and only reaffirm the nature's or the nurture's perspective. Okay. The other issue with that, the second problem underneath, is that the tripartite model, it sort of starts with the assumption that attitudes are enduring and not fleeting, right? So it would take years to make this sort of adjustment in an attitude or belief. It is not something you can just do in 1 to 5 years, sort of like the marriage equality study showed, where over time, yes, there is an attitude adjustment, there is a difference in beliefs, right? But it takes a gradual, long time to process. It can't just be something that's done in 1 to 5 years. So what do you do with a persuader who moves behavior before ever asking permission? So these 4 wands sort of climb that ladder, and then from a nudge that no one really ever sort of would be harmed by, to a surgery that nobody would ever agree to. And their freedom to refuse kind of gets thinner every step. So taking that freedom away does not just cost subjects, right? It can cost her the very outcome that she wanted, Benenson, right? By turning a prospective conclusion into a scandal, and by ignoring how slowly real attitudes change. So real persuasion has to leave room for someone to reason their way to a different conclusion on a timeline that respects how long that reasoning takes.